Welcome. My name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. I go live here on Facebook every Monday at 2:30 Mountain Time. Today we're going to be playing around with a new set of dies. And we're just doing dies because I'm playing with the basic borders. And I've got them out because I've been cutting on them. I usually take a piece of magnetic sheet and I adhere it to my paper backing, and that's how I store them in my envelope. I take and invert the flap and then stick this in here, and then I just put a label, and then I store them in a box next to my die cutting machine. But these are fabulous for all kinds of uses, and so today we're not just making one card, we're going to play around and do several different things. So hang in here with me and we'll get creating. I'm going to put you down on my desk. Like I said, these are the dies. I don't even know where to start. I have a bunch of stuff just kind of cut out over here. And so I wanted to show you several different things we can do. Let's start with an easy one. And so for this one, I just have my basic layers. I have my card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then I have my 4" by 5 1/4. And then I did a 3 3/4. You know, it should be by 5. I think I went a little less because I knew I was going to be cutting some off. And then I just took this die. And you can either do it, you know, straight down the middle. You can do it off to the side. You know, you can give it any kind of angle you wanted. I just wanted an intricate little something. And so if you notice, these actually have stitching in them. So there's even stitching along that edge. So to do this card, I mean, it's nice and simple. I've got a stamp set over here. I'm using Bermuda Bay and Coastal Cabana. So I'm just going to do a little color on color because, like I said, I've got several cards here today, and I don't want to keep you all day. It is a holiday. Hopefully some people are out there barbecuing. So like I said, tone on tone, and so I'm going to take Coastal Cabana ink and I'm stamping onto Coastal Cabana paper. You got to be careful. I just didn't even tap, 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 but I recently re-inked this pad, and so you'll notice there's kind of a halo, so I definitely do not want to rock at all. And I want to go straight up and down even pressure, and I'm doing this before I adhere because in case I had caught that, I can flip it over and do the other side, but we did okay, so we can move on and finish this card. So this is using the Snail Mail Designer Series paper and the Snailed It stamp set. Sometimes I get those things mixed up because it's the Snail Mail Suite. If you get everything. But I just went ahead and I adhered the Designer Series paper onto this layer. But then I have this bow here. And so I wanted to show you how I did this. It's really simple. And it's not even really a bow. If I was making a real bow, I probably would have gone over my bow maker tool. We do sell these. They're $10 each and they make a perfect bow. But for kind of this cheat sheet kind of thing, all I did was I took just a string of ribbon. That's 12 inches. That's probably too much. But I'm just going to tie it around my Tombow glue. Some of you may have seen this before, but I'm just going to tie it around and make a knot. Oh, slipped a little bit. You get the idea. So I just tied a knot and now I have this loop, right? So I can make a what they call a faux bow by just clipping down the middle. And so I'm going to go at kind of an angle in case we're the right length, and we're not. So let's see, like I said, I'm going to play with it and make sure I'm a little flat. But then I'm just going to snip off some ends. And then it's ready. Then all I got to do is wrap it around and adhere from the back. And I'm going to do this on this layer before adhering it to my card base, because what that's going to do is it's going to hide these loose ends on the back side. And so they're not going to be viewable from the front of the card. And if, you know, sometime down the road they decide they're going to start fraying, they're going to fray in between layers, and so you really won't see it. Definitely a plus. I'm going to grab the Take Your Pick tool and just grab a glue dot. And I'm going to put one at either side. There's really no need to put a glue dot on the front. I'm going to leave it just kind of, I don't want to say loose, but not adhered to the front, and just adhere it in the back. And then we're ready to adhere. And I can either adhere it flat, or we can give it a little bit of dimension. Bring in some Stampin' Dimensionals. There's our card number 1. But it needs an inside, but you know, you get the idea that I used my edge dies here. And then I brought in another one. I have another Bermuda Bay card base. And then I took a different edge die. This time I used this one, and it's got a really pretty little scallop and again a stitching. So it has the stitching and the scallop both on the same die. And then I just cut a 4" by 5¼ layer and did this. And we can adhere this to here, and then we can put a circle, we can put, you know, we can go this way with it and maybe put some kind of element in the middle with maybe the Stitch So Sweetly dies. Any number of things with that. Here I've got another edgelet. And so for this one, I have a Daffodil Delight card base, and then I took some real red and I used yet another die. I used this one. And so this one has a stitching, a line, and some little dots. And so what I got on one side and what I got on the other were slightly different. But one side will have the stitching and one side's going to have the dots, and the other side's going to do a reverse. So you could put that on the bottom, you know, and have it swoop up. Or I've got this one swooping down. I can have it swoop in from the side. And I chose to dry emboss this one. So this is dry embossed using the Old World paper. I'm going to come in with, again, some tone on tone. So I'm going to grab Daffodil Delight ink to go with our Daffodil Delight paper. And I was just doing a little bit of a background something. And then I'm going to adhere this one. So this can go flat. I would not recommend using snail adhesive on this one, but the Stampin' Seal is a little thicker and grabs a little stronger in my opinion. I've had much better luck with these things sticking. And the deal is because there's a little bit of texture to it, it's not exactly flat on the back, but these do stick very well. Then I have another layer, and I cut this one, see, I think it was 3½, maybe it was 4 inches by 2 3/4. And then I laid this die across the bottom, and I only cut 3 of my little whoop-de-whoops. So I was able to use an edge die on a smaller piece of paper. So I can go up to 6 inches just with the one die, but they've also got a little bit of an extension. So if you line it up just right before you put it into your die cutting machine, maybe add some washi tape to hold it in place, you can actually make this go all the way across a scrapbook page of 12 by 12. So, but we're doing shorter today. So then I think I would put another ribbon around here, maybe in red. And he could even be colored in with some Stampin' Blends, or you could leave him like that. And I'll have all the finished cards on my blog, so don't worry. I just wanted to make sure that you got to see how versatile this set really is. The next one I have is this one here. And again, this is that arch die. And I used it as just, you know, a layer across the bottom. And my thought was this is the Tasteful Textures, and it just kind of looks like grass to me. And so I figured this could be a hill, and what goes above hills? Clouds, right? So that's where this other die comes in. So I took this die and just die cut some of the, it's not really cardboard, but the backer piece to our designer series paper, because it's a little bit thicker. It's not quite cardboard thickness, but it's not cardstock thickness either. It's kind of a good in between, and because it's glossy, it actually slides really well when I use my Stampin' sponges, or I'm going to use the blender brushes. So I'm going to come in with a blender brush and Balmy Blue. And I'm just going to ink this up a little, and then I'm going to touch my surface. And then I'm going to come on and do this. And I always make sure to touch the surface first coming off the ink pad, because I want to make sure that I'm not getting that kind of a mark on my card. I want my card to be very light and fluffy. So I'm actually starting off over here and then moving on to the card. So for this one, I kind of created a template. And as I use my blender brushes along the edge of this template, it's giving me my clouds. So once I have my clouds done, then I can come in and lay down my grass and then start building my scene over that. So that would be card number 4. See, we're into 4 cards already, and we're not even barely 15 minutes in. And granted, they're not finished, but I'm showing you some great ideas. And again, they're going to be on my blog. You'll notice I use this as a template, so we were kind of doing the reverse. So this time I took that same die and I cut a couple different layers of the basic white. And we could go ahead and, you know, just lightly touch this a little with a little bit of blue or a little bit of smoky slate. I mean, something just to give it a little bit of sky texture to it. And of course, I'm not getting a lot on there because I haven't recently inked it. But once you lay the white onto it, you'll see there's a little bit of blue. I think if I was playing around with it, really, I'd add some more. But we can go ahead and adhere these together now and have a series of clouds. So I'm going to just take my other piece and just pick up some of that glue. And then this is a Balmy Blue card base. I need to replace my trimmer blade, so there's a little bit of fuzz on the end. That comes off with an emery board if you have just a nail file laying around. If you didn't change your blade quick enough and it got a little bit of fuzz, emery boards are great for that. And then I thought, you know, it needed a little something. And I thought, you know, clouds usually have rainbows, and I thought rainbows would be really pretty. And we could, even if we wanted, you know, put a little bit more, you know, darker blue up here, maybe put some more clouds. You know, it could definitely be played with some. Not enough ink on there, it didn't do anything, but you get the idea. It would do that. And I didn't have rainbow dies anymore. We've had them in the past, but I don't have any currently. So what I did was I created circles. And then I'm just going to layer the circles together. Then I'm going to bring in my trimmer. And then to find the center, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be here at 1 1/4 and here at 1 1/4 and center between the two. And it's not necessary to be exactly in the center, but I thought if I cut it down the middle rather than just burying it in there, I have 2 rainbows, not just 1. Now I just need to figure out where I'm going to adhere this and then put that underneath. And I would probably adhere this flat. And then because this is kind of thick because of all the layers, I'm going to take this piece and adhere it with Stampin' Dimensionals so that it doesn't really give too much bulk and kind of give away the fact that we've buried something under there. And also I could have, I guess because I'm, you know, popping this up, I could have just done, you know, those and then stuck it over the top, and then I could have just tucked it in anywhere. I wouldn't have even needed to mark where I was putting it. And then I usually make these kind of long and let it hang over, and then I come from the back side and I trim off any excess from this side. But that one came out kind of clear. So there's another card. I'm going to bring in my zigzags. And I went with the rainbow theme again, and this time used the zigzag die. And I did it 2 different ways. I did one just to show you an example of how it would look if you were to do the edge, like I did one side, and then I laid the die down a second time, kind of even underneath it, and it gave me like rickrack. And so you could do this in several different colors and have, you know, a series of them either straight, or you can come in at an angle and go this way. And you could have your rickracks going this way, or we could do a rainbow again by layering these up in color order. And I was just using scrap pieces, and so these are not necessarily all exactly the right height. I would probably come in and trim them with my trimmer, you know, and make sure that I'm lined up in there. And we could have them, you know, go offset. We can have them go inset. There's just so many different fun things you can do with this as you kind of create layers with an interesting edge to them. So see, you could, you know, choose how far apart you want them, you know, what angle you want them at. And then you would just lay it down onto your card base. And like I said, because I kept these long, we can lay them on here and then just glue off the edge. I could even go this way with them. Or I think what I'm going to do is go back and do them all as rickracks and do a rainbow this way. I think that would be really pretty. So check my blog for that. I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. But I have one more trick to show you. Is we have so far just been playing with all of these edgelets on cards. And somebody asked me if they could be used as envelope liners. Well, they're not exactly the same as our envelopes. You know, they're kind of close. They're not exact. So if I was to, you know, cut a liner to put in here, yeah, it would work. It wouldn't match up exactly, but it would work. But if I took this same die and I die cut the edge, so let's bring in the cut and emboss machine. I can take some designer series paper and I can lay this on the edge and then feed this through here. And of course I could have left it, you know, longer if I wanted it to go further down into my card, you know, and then I can trim it to match. Or I can take this die and I can once again lay it down on here and line this up and just cut off that edge. Now again, I think I would use some washi tape, make sure it didn't wiggle. Make sure I'm even. And I'm trying to get as close to the top as I can because I want to save that, you know, the lick and stick part. But if by some case you did cut it off, tear and tape works perfect for that. Just put a little piece of tear and tape across the top and you're good to go. They also make envelope glue. You can get a little glue container thing at several craft stores that will imitate this lick and stick idea. So I don't know if you can tell, but the lick and stick comes all the way down to here. And so yes, I did cut off some up in here, but that whole area is still available and still ready to be sticky. And I can put my liner in like that, or I can decorate the outside flap by putting it on this side and then gluing it with liquid glue, and then just coming and trimming off the excess. So yes, we can use them on envelopes, but they need a little bit of something to it. It doesn't just fit as is like our old ones did. But that's okay, because look at how many more uses we got out of that. I mean, yeah, I had to do a little something extra for my envelope, but look at all these other cards. And all these different techniques, using the positive, the negative, you know, doing them straight, doing them at an angle. And we got all these other card ideas out of that same set of dies. So if you don't have those dies yet, you want them. And they can be found in my online store, of course. And I'll put the link up here later. this is where you're going to find those dies. So you get 6 dies for $29, and they're 6 inches by 1 inch in length. And so, like I said, we did a lot of different things with it, and I think you will love them. Stampin' Up! Has found that new stampers really love working in kits, and a lot of us demonstrators end up putting together kind of our own kits to give a little better selection. And so to help us out, Stampin' Up! Is going to start doing their own line of kits and expand on it. So there's going to be some that require stamping, some that don't require stamping, some that will come with everything you need, others you just add scissors and glue. They're going to be great. They're going to be designing some especially for the kit line, like they did in the catalogs. But to start off with, so that they can have a good selection, they're going to start off with 10 kits, and most of them are past paper pumpkins. And so if maybe there were some people who said, I really like that idea of paper pumpkin and everything coming in a kit, but I don't want a mystery box. Some people love the mystery box. Some people, would rather know what they're buying before they spend their money. So these 10 are going to be some of the past paper pumpkin kits. One of them was some vintage note cards that were in a celebration a couple years ago that were super popular. They've brought those back, and then we will look forward to, in the future, seeing more new kits coming out, and they're only $15 each, so they're a great price point for using for those young kids that are homeschooling. You need some kind of an art project. Maybe you have, an elderly mother-in-law or grandmother that you wanted to take a box over and have something that she can play with without having to invest in a lot of crafts right at once. They're going to be great. So watch that newsletter, and it will go out first thing tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you later. Bye.